You know, it's really striking how these familiar suburban landscapes are changing.
Hmm.
You see these big retail hubs like malls really struggling. Spring Hill Mall in West Dundee, it's a prime example.
It absolutely is. And it's not just closing down.
No.
It's heading for a total overhaul, a
Yeah.
complete transformation.
Right. And we've been looking at the reporting on this from Michael Linton over at chicagodealflow.com. He's really detailed what's happening there.
Yeah, his work gives a great snapshot. It really captures the kind of strategic shifts we're seeing in commercial real estate right now.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we really want to unpack the whole Spring Hill Mall story.
Okay.
We'll look at, how it started, its peak, the decline, and then this really interesting part, how the local government, West Dundee, stepped in to actually buy the place.
Which is pretty unusual, right?
Very. And we'll talk about the money side, TIF districts, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Plus the demolition plans and what they're hoping to build there instead. This whole mixed use idea.
And, why should folks care? Well, this isn't just about one mall.
No.
It taps into these bigger trends, right? How communities are dealing with retail changes everywhere. So whether you're into real estate or urban planning or just watching how suburbs evolve, there's a lot here.
Definitely. Okay, let's rewind a bit. Spring Hill Mall wasn't always like this. Back in 1980 when it opened, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah. Developed by Home Development Company, which interestingly was owned by Sears back then.
Right. And designed by a Chicago firm, Architectonics Inc.
And think about the anchors they opened with. Marshall Field and Company, Sears itself, big names.
Prestigious names, yeah. It was designed to pull people in from all over the region.
And that size, 1.37 million square feet.
Hmm.
That tells you the scale of ambition they had for that traditional mall model.
And it worked. For quite a while, anyway.
It did, but then things started to change. The whole retail world shifted.
And those national trends hit Spring Hill hard. We saw a Village document showing their sales tax revenues dropped by over $400,000 just between 2016 and 2021.
Wow, $400,000.
Yes.
That's not small change.
Not at all. It's a really concrete sign of that decline.
And that figure really highlights the impact, doesn't it? E-commerce really took off, hitting exactly the kinds of stores malls relied on, department stores, clothing.
Yeah, the core stuff.
Right. It wasn't just slow erosion. It fundamentally undercut their whole business model. Less foot traffic, fewer sales.
And then the anchors started dropping. That feels like the real death knell sometimes. JCPenney left way back in 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sears announced it was closing in 2019.
Right?
And Macy's followed in 2020. Let's those big stores go.
It just accelerates everything. And you have things like go-tenancy clauses in leases,
Mm-hmm.
right? So smaller stores can leave or demand lower rent when an anchor bolts.
Ah, okay. So it destabilizes the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. So by the time the mall officially permanently closed its doors, that was March 22nd, 2024, who was left? Just Kohl's and the Cinemark movie theater.
And even the mayor, Chris Nelson, said, the closure wasn't exactly a shock. They'd seen it coming.
Which suggests they were already thinking ahead, planning.
Yeah. And then, of course, Kohl's announced it's leaving too, planning to close that location in April 2025, part of their own national changes.
Right. So it's clear this isn't just one mall's problem. It's systemic.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads us to the really interesting move by the village of West Dundee, their intervention.
Yeah, buying the mall. That's the unusual part.
Very. It's not typical.
So the village bought the main mall building itself for $7 million in April 2024. Right. From Kohan Retail Investment Group.
Correct. And they'd already picked up the old Sears spot for nearly $2 million.
And the former Macy's for over $1.2 million.
Yeah.
Well, that's a significant chunk of public money.
It absolutely is. And Mayor Nelson explained why. He talked about the complex nature of mall real estate.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, think about it. Often, a mall isn't just one property. The anchors might own their buildings. The developer owns the main structure. Maybe there are out parcels owned by others.
Ah, so it's all fragmented, lots of different owners.
Precisely. And trying to get all those different owners with different goals to agree on a massive redevelopment plan, it's incredibly hard, maybe impossible.
Like herding cats, you said earlier.
Exactly like herding cats. So, by buying up these key pieces, West Dundee consolidated ownership.
Streamlining it.
Right. It puts them in the driver's seat to create one cohesive vision, instead of some messy piecemeal approach that probably wouldn't work anyway.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense strategically. And this leads us to how they plan to pay for the next steps, right? The TIF district?
Yes, tax increment financing. Crucial piece here. Both West Dundee and Carpentersville next door, which apparently controls about 15% of the property,
Hmm?
have set these up.
So can you break down TIF for us? How does it work here?
Sure. The basic idea is you draw a boundary around the area of the TIF district. Then, as the property values hopefully increase because of redevelopment,
Right.
that extra property tax revenue, the increment, doesn't go into the general city funds, at least not initially.
Okay, where does it go?
It gets funneled back into the project itself. It pays for things like infrastructure roads, sewers demolition, site prep, things needed to attract private developers.
Got it. So you're using the expected future value increase to pay for the work needed now to create that value.
You've got it. The village documents even say this incremental revenue will play a decisive role in encouraging private redevelopment. It's seed money, essentially.
And why was this area eligible? The reporting mentioned declining property values, vacancies.
Yeah, those are classic TIF triggers. The analysis showed declining equalized assessed property values.
Equalized assessed property values. What's that?
Basically, it's a standardized way states try to make property values fair for taxation across different areas.
Okay.
If that number's going down, it's a sign the area is struggling economically.
Okay, so low values, high vacancies.
Yeah.
The mall property basically ticked the boxes for needing this kind of financial tool.
And it's a significant tool because that $3.5 million needed for demolition, that's coming from the Spring Hill Mall TIF.
That's a big upfront cost the TIF is covering. So demolition, they've hired American Demolition Corp for that.
Yes, based out of Carroll Stream. The village board approved the contract.
And they're looking to start early 2025.
That's the plan, early next year. And they figure it'll take about 9 months, roughly.
9 months to tear down a mall. Wow.
It's a big job. And they're planning to do it in phases.
Right, strategically,
Yeah.
starting on the southeast side where Sears and Macy's were.
Correct. Then working their way north and west. The idea, at least initially, was to try and keep access open for Kohl's and Cinemark while demolition started. The village manager, Joe Cavallero, mentioned that.
But as we noted, Kohl's is closing in April 25 anyway.
Exactly. So that might change how things progress on the ground. The situation is, fluid.
So demolition clears the slate. What's the vision for what comes after? It's not another mall, right?
Definitely not. That shit has sailed. The vision is firmly centered on mixed use.
Mixed use, so shops, homes, maybe offices.
That's the idea. The village talks about wanting a strong residential component with roads and sidewalks to create a neighborhood feel.
A neighborhood feel, that's such a different concept from an enclosed mall.
Completely different. Outward facing, integrated, walkable, ideally, not just a big box surrounded by parking.
And the TIF plan itself backs this up.
Yes, the TIF redevelopment plan specifically aims to encourage mixed residential, retail, commercial, and institutional uses. It's a direct response to, online shopping, the pandemic impact, anchor closures, all those pressures.
It just seems like common sense now, doesn't it? Relying only on retail is too risky.
It is. And adding housing creates a built-in customer base. People living right there are more likely to use the local shops, restaurants, services.
Plus, it helps the village diversify its tax base, moving beyond just sales tax from retail.
Absolutely. It aligns with their broader planning goals, and it taps into this idea that modern commercial spaces need to offer more experiences, convenience, a sense of place. Mixed use can deliver that.
So, looking bigger picture, what does this Spring Hill example tell us about the commercial real estate market?
Well, first, it underscores that these transformations take time. Mary Nelson said 5, maybe 10 years.
Patience is key.
Definitely. But for developers looking at this, there are real pluses. You've got a huge site, about 100 acres.
That's a lot of land.
Huge potential. It's in a good location, established suburb, major roads nearby, existing infrastructure.
And the village is handling the demolition. That's a massive upfront cost and headache removed for private
A
developers.
huge incentive, yeah. But there are risks, too, of course. Mixed use is complex.
How so?
Well, you got to get the balance right. How much housing versus commercial? What kind of commercial? Can the spaces adapt if market needs change 5 years down the road?
Lots of variables to juggle.
For sure. And these projects really need strong public-private partnerships. The village and the developer have to work closely together. And you need investors, patient capital, willing to wait for the long-term payoff.
But the reporting suggests developers are interested already.
It seems so, yes, which indicates the market sees the opportunity here. Despite the challenges, they recognize the potential value.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Based on Michael Linton's reporting at chicagodealflow.com and everything we've discussed, what are the main takeaways here?
I think First, you see a municipality taking a really proactive, almost aggressive role because traditional retail failed.
Right. Stepping in directly.
Second, the critical role of financing tools like TIF to make such a massive project even feasible.
Mm-hmm. Logical.
Third, demolition isn't just destruction, it's site preparation. It's clearing the path for a completely new vision that mixed-use future.
A necessary step.
And finally, this whole thing is just a really powerful case study. It shows how suburbs are trying to adapt to huge market shifts in real time.
It really does feel bigger than just West Dundee. It's a story playing out in different ways across the country.
Exactly. It's a lesson in adaptation.
So a final thought maybe for our listeners. Thinking about these trends, the decline of certain retail models, the rise of mixed use, what other kinds of maybe underused commercial properties out there might be ripe for this kind of transformation in the coming years?
That's a great question. Old strip malls, vacant big box stores, maybe even underutilized office parks.
Yeah. And what will make or break those projects? Is it getting that balance right? Homes, shops, community spaces. How do you ensure they actually succeed?
Finding that successful formula, that balance, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Definitely something to watch as these suburban landscapes continue to evolve.